Welcome to Twisted Storytime. Tonight, we will be covering one of Britain's most perplexing murder mysteries, a case that has confounded investigators and armchair detectives for nearly a century. This is the story of the killing of Julia Wallace in Liverpool, England, January 1931. The city was gripped by the bitter cold of winter, streets often shrouded in a Merseyside fog. In a modest terraced house at 29 Wolverton Street in the Anfield district lived William Herbert Wallace, 52, and his wife Julia, 49, and had been married for 18 years. William worked as a collection agent for the Prudential Assurance Company, a respectable, if unexciting position that involved collecting insurance premiums door-to-door for policyholders. By all accounts, the Wallaces led a quiet, ordinary life. As they had no children, their evenings were often spent with William playing his violin while Julia accompanied him on the piano. Their neighbors described them as private people, but pleasant and friendly. But on the evening of January 20th, 1931, this unremarkable existence would be shattered forever. The evening before the murder, January 19th, William Wallace went to his regular chess club meeting at the Liverpool Central Cafe. Upon arriving at the club, William was informed of something unusual. The previous night at the club, when William wasn't there, they had received a mysterious telephone call from someone identifying himself as R. Qualtrough. This caller had left a message for William, asking him to come to 25 Menlove Gardens East the following evening at 7:30 p.m. to discuss insurance. The address given was in Mossley Hill, an area William wasn't especially familiar with. William noted down the details because such a business call seemed promising. A potential new customer from a wealthy neighborhood could mean a good commission. The next evening, January 20th, William set out to find this Menlove Gardens East address. The next evening, January 20th, William set out to find Menlove Gardens East address. What followed was an odd venture. He had been witnessed by multiple people throughout the evening. William started off taking a tram from near his home at approximately 6:45 p.m. During the journey, he asked the conductor for help finding this Menlove Gardens East to no avail. After arriving in the general area, he had spent nearly an hour wandering around the neighborhood, asking various people where this address is. He had asked a policeman, a newsagent, and a few local residents for directions. The reason for his difficulty soon became clear. Menlove Gardens East simply did not exist. There was a Menlove Gardens North, South, and West, but no East. After realizing this, William finally gave up his search shortly after 8:30 p.m. and headed back home. Upon returning home at around 8:45 p.m., William encountered his first problem. He found his key wouldn't work in the front door lock. After trying repeatedly, William tried going around to the back entrance of the house. There, he found a back door bolted from the inside. From there, he had called out to one of his neighbors for some assistance. A Mr. and Mrs. Johnston said they would come over to help. As they tried and made several attempts, they managed to enter through the front door. Once inside, William moved through the darkened house and eventually discovering a horrific scene in the front parlor. There, lying on the rug in front of the gas fire, was the body of his wife, Julia. She had been brutally bludgeoned to death. Her head had been struck with some tremendous force multiple times with a blunt instrument. Blood had spattered across the walls and furnishings. "They've killed my wife," William immediately shouted to the neighbors. Police were called and arrived. Later, the police surgeon determined that Julia had been dead for at least an hour. Their initial search revealed several curious details. There was no murder weapon found near or around the scene, though investigators believed it was likely an iron fire poker or something similar. The police also found Julia's body was partially burned, suggesting the killer may have attempted to set fire to her remains to cover up their crime. The Wallace house showed no signs of any forced entry, indicating Julia most likely knew her killer and had possibly invited in her killer. A Macintosh raincoat belonging to William was found to be partially burned and tucked beneath Julia's body, a detail that would become critically important. Perhaps the most puzzling, though the house appeared to have been ransacked, with drawers pulled out and contents disturbed, although nothing of true value had been taken. Julia's purse, containing just £4, a significant sum at the time, remained untouched. A gold ring still on her finger hadn't been removed either. 4 days had passed after the murder, and William was arrested and charged with his wife's murder. The police looked for the simplicity of the case and came to the conclusion that William himself had made the chess club call the night before, using the fictional address, and created an elaborate wild goose chase across Liverpool to establish an alibi, then returned home, killed his wife, and staged the crime scene to appear as though a burglar had been responsible. The prosecution's case rested heavily on the timing of the crime. They contended William had enough time to kill his wife before beginning his journey to Menlove Gardens. With multiple witnesses observing him searching for the non-existent address, he had manufactured a perfect alibi. The Macintosh raincoat found partially beneath Julia's body was particularly damning. Why would an intruder place William's coat under the victim? Additionally, police found it suspicious that nothing had been stolen and that William had experienced difficulty with his own front door lock, something that seemed staged. William's trial began on April 22, 1931 at Street George's Hall in Liverpool, and throughout the whole trial, William had maintained his innocence. The prosecution argued that Wallace had the opportunity, means, and motive to kill his wife, and suggested he stood to gain from Julia's life insurance policy, though this was later shown to be a very modest sum. William's defense countered that the timing made the prosecution's theory was impossible. William was seen by a tram conductor at 6:45 p.m., leaving him insufficient time to murder his wife and clean himself before boarding the tram. Furthermore, no blood was ever found on William's clothing, despite the brutal and bloody nature of the crime. A medical examination showed William had no scratches or injuries that might have come from struggle between his wife. After a 4-day trial and just 1 hour of deliberation, the jury then found William guilty of murder. He was to be sentenced to death by hanging. Meanwhile, in an unprecedented move in British legal history, William's conviction was overturned by the Court of Criminal Appeal on May 19, 1931. The first time the courts had ever reversed a murder conviction. The judges ruled that the evidence against William was not sufficient to justify the guilty verdict. The Lord Chief Justice stated that the case against William was entirely circumstantial and that the jury's verdict was not supported by the weight of evidence, and William Herbert Wallace was to be released as a free man. Despite his legal vindication, William found life in Liverpool impossible after the trial. He had faced hostility and suspicion everywhere he went. His employer Prudential had transferred him to a desk job away from the public view. His freedom was unfortunately short-lived. On February 26, 1933, just 2 years after his wife Julia's murder, he died of uremia, a condition caused by kidney failure. Some have suggested the stress of the investigation and trial accelerated his health declining. The murder weapon was never found. No one else was ever charged with Julia's murder over the decades. Numerous theories have emerged about who killed Julia Wallace. Theory 1. William did do it. Despite his acquittal, many still believe William Wallace meticulously planned and executed his wife's murder. Proponents point to the chess club call and the elaborate alibi as evidence of premeditation. Theory 2. Gordon Parry. A young man named Gordon Parry, who knew the Wallaces and had previously worked with William, became a prime suspect in later investigations. William himself had suspected Parry, who had visited their home several times and knew their routine and layout of their home. Parry had a history of petty crime and may have been known to Julia, explaining why she would let him into the house. Theory 3. Richard Gordon Parry and an accomplice. Some theories suggest Parry made the fake call to the club, but had an accomplice who committed the actual murder while Parry established his own alibi. Theory 4. A mistaken identity killing. Another theory proposes that Julia was killed by someone who had intended to rob the house, but was surprised by her presence or mistook her for someone else. The Wallace case has become a classic in British crime history, studied by criminologists, legal scholars, and mystery writers for generations. The renowned crime writer Raymond Chandler called it the impossible murder, while crime novelist P. James described it as one of the classics of criminology. The case has been the subject of numerous books, documentaries, and dramatic adaptations. It represents one of those rare perfect storms in criminal history. A seemingly ordinary couple, a brutal crime, a mysterious phone call, an apparently impossible timeline, and a legal first in British history. Today, nearly a century later, the fundamental question remains unanswered. Who killed Julia Wallace? Perhaps the most chilling aspect of this case is that someone, William or another person now long dead, got away with murder. The truth has died with them, leaving behind one of crime history's most enduring mysteries. What do you think happened at 29 Wolverton Street on that January evening in 1931? The evidence is before you, but like so many investigators before, you may find that the killing of Julia Wallace offers no easy answers. That's it for now, and thank you for listening. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more twisted and deranged crime stories.